All right, Gemini, welcome to Catalyst Energies and welcome to your new moon forecast, astrology forecast. This report is going to be for Gemini rising, Gemini moon, Gemini sun, and we're going to be looking at the new moon that was exact on March 2nd, 2022, and the major themes along the moon's journey up to the full moon in Virgo on the 18th of March. So welcome back, everyone. Welcome if you're new to this channel. Remember, whenever you interact with content like this, subscribe, like, comment, and share. It actually does help the channel tremendously in its growth. So thank you in advance for that. And a special shout out to my subscribers. Soon this content, these forecasts are going to be available only to subscribers. So if that's an interest of you after listening to this, or you've listened to a few, you can find the link to Subscribe Star in the description box below. And that will allow you to be part of the fellowship, right? So, and there's more stuff coming for subscribers in that realm. So, but let's get into you, Gemini. Gemini rising, moon, and sun. So out of you and Scorpio so far, right? I'm not done with recording yet, but so far you and Scorpio, strangely enough, because I mean, we all are going to have a South Node in Scorpio somewhere, but it's you and Scorpio so far that seem to be having, there's going to be some hidden aspects coming out in areas that are going to be very difficult to deal with over the next year with the South Node in your sixth house. So when we look at this new moon period and even all of the main transits that are happening up to the full moon in Virgo, we are talking about your axis of power in particular, Gemini. We're looking at a new moon, Jupiter, Neptune, all in Pisces in your 10th house. And the 4th house will be where the full moon is, full moon in Virgo, right? Now, it depends on where your cusps are, but in terms of whole sign astrology, when we're looking at the general themes and archetypes, you are looking at a lunar cycle that is initiating in the area of power of where you're releasing it, your career, your your professional life, your public persona, your mission, right? What you are contributing to societally and the institutions that they represent. And so this is where your power is released, and the 4th house is where you gather your personal power. So it represents your emotional intimacy with your family, the family bonds that you've developed, the customs and traditions at a family level that hold the family together emotionally, because it's that emotional cohesion that provides containment for the individual consciousness to find self-esteem, emotional security, and a sense of individual personal power. So this is already along the lines of power for you, Gemini, in general, with this lunar cycle and this new moon. So when we talk about power, we are talking about Pluto and Scorpio, and Venus and Mars are part of this conversation for all of us in the house of where power is generated. Gemini, wow, the themes of power are going to be probably the most obvious for you because of all of these connections and the areas that these major events are unfolding. So if Pluto is still in your 8th house and has been since 2008, right, has been in this area. So the area of power generation, right, the resources that you generate in communion, in relationship, in cooperation, in a business sense, in investments, the return on your investments, the debt that you have, and then into the more esoteric, the dark night of the soul, the shadow self, the subconscious realm. This is the 8th house, death, sex, and taxes, right? And the death of the ego in order to give of your energy to this collective or communal relationship that generates something more than the individuals involved. This is the 8th house. So intimacy, trust, betrayal, all parts of the 8th house. And this has been where Pluto has been making, its appearance of the Grim Reaper with a huge scythe, right? Like just cutting everything back. And so Gemini, because that Pluto is making such significant impact on the area that it's really familiar with, which is where the power is generated. This is a big deal for you. So Venus and Mars came together in this area on the 22nd to 23rd degree of Capricorn. This is where Saturn and Pluto were conjunct on January 2020. So thinking about those themes, those larger themes in terms of this area of power and power generation and intimacy and trust and the depth of feeling and power dynamics. This is a place to pay attention, because now Venus and Mars, like I said, they also came into conjunction. So everything that has been going through demolition and going through a return to something or a sacrifice. Sacrifice to the greater good is a big part of the eighth house. Also ritual and participating in ritual that creates a pattern, which is really exemplified in the ninth house. So Gemini, these themes are really hitting close to home for you. And it's the South Node in Scorpio, right? The realm of Pluto. That is where a lot of these power dynamics are going to start coming up in yourself, right? In your daily routines, the way that you move through the world, your works, and the hidden enemies, right, is a big part of the sixth house. So aspects of the self that are going to come out that have been a secret, that have been down underneath with Scorpio, but something, Gemini, that you are already capable of doing so well is to really just face yourself, because as a Gemini, you inherently adhere to the notion of duality and the existence of one and the same, two parts to the same whole, right? This is part of, it's embedded in your personality, in your very nature. And so going into the depths of who you are, which is really what happens in the sixth house, either by force or by illness or disaster or crisis or through discipline and training. All of that is in Scorpio, getting really down to the bottom of who you are, not having as much trepidation about it than maybe other people. And the South Node is here showing us where we've all been at a soul level, and there's just a lot of unearthing of truth, a lot of secrets that are coming out, or aspects of the Scorpio dynamic that are going to be shown to be part of our past, or some aspect that we've mastered, and to remember you've done this before at some level. So going back into this process and realizing how much you've already done at a soul level, how much we've all done in terms of getting to the root of yourself, is something to keep in mind, but also could really pose some, especially over the next year, right? As the South Node moves through the sixth house, this is going to be a time, Gemini, where a lot of this stuff is going to come out and surface and is going to challenge you in terms of how you discipline and purify and reconstitute yourself. So, and the reason I bring this up is because of how heavy Pluto is coming out of, still in the eighth house. These two, Venus and Mars, that are going to be conjunct in Aquarius on the 5th to the 6th. And they're coming through and assessing all the damage, and they really want to come together, consummate their union, and really set the, plant the seed for the individual consciousness and in our relationships, and plant the seed to grow something very valuable in a very idealistic and spiritualized way in terms of your belief system, Gemini. So what's getting cleaned up and assessed, and a new birth plan is being made with Venus and Mars, is going to be bringing in to a new belief system. Now Saturn and Mercury have been here. This is where they were conjunct at the new moon on the 2nd. And so belief systems have been very strongly adhered to. And there's a lot of stability and a lot of authority around these belief systems for you, Gemini. And that in itself is not negative or positive. It's just the reality of the situation. And Mercury coming along now and having this connection with Saturn for all of us. But for you, Gemini, it's a reality check about these larger value systems, or what you believe or what you understand, and what's going on at the higher mind level. This is where wisdom is found, and alchemy is practiced in the ninth house. So higher education, advanced training, but belief systems, the meaning of the patterns that's developed in the eighth house, right? The ritual in the eighth house is what gives the pattern the energy to take on a meaning, right? Symbols, archetypes. So something here that has been incredibly grounded and rooted in terms of belief system, and what you're going with, and what provides a pattern of meaning for you. Your ruler is Mercury in this air sign that had been retrograde in Aquarius. So now I think that you are able to really harness the authority, right? Saturn is giving Mercury the authority to actually utilize all of the resources of the belief systems that you hold in order to do damage control. And what's damage control? Well, it's what Pluto has been doing this whole time in Capricorn, and the fact that Venus and Mars are now coming up to meet that point and come to terms, right? Catch up with it and come to terms with all of the destruction or the desolation, whatever Pluto represents for us. It's going to be something that we have a much more personal connection with that power today, in particular on the 3rd. So you do have like the blessing or the authority get vested in you, Gemini, in particular, with Mercury as your ruling planet, to utilize all resources you have from this pattern to really do damage control, because not all is lost, even though there is significant loss or change or destruction in this area. And for an 8th house, I mean, this is really either, if you're very conscious and aware of it, you already know that what is being destroyed in this area is part of the transformation, but it is, potential for businesses to be destroyed, trust and relationships to be destroyed, a lot of potential manipulation in relationships in order to, maximize power and exploit is been a big part of this as well. So Gemini, you really have wow, such an incredible journey right now ahead of you. And it's really about how do you, who is it that you want to be in a public setting? What kind of symbol do you want to align yourself with as an avatar of this Pisces new moon with Jupiter right next to it? What is the symbol of spiritual vision and valor and courage, as we talked about in that new moon transmission? It's very public for you, Gemini, and it's in your mission, right? And what you are contributing to societally. And Uranus is part of this conversation for all of us, but in particular in sextile to your 12th house, right, which is traditionally the Pisces house. Gemini, it's pretty clear that the astral realm, the realm of the multidimensional experience, I mean, I feel like you've been literally glitching in and out of something more than everybody else, right? Like you really are seeing the code in the 12th house, Gemini, which makes sense because you're a Gemini. And Mercury is going to be able to read that code and ride it like it's a beam of light, okay? So you're pretty well okay with this, but it also does leave things really open for what do you surrender to? Where are you eventually going to lead yourself back to at the 12th house, which is of endings, right? The thing is, this is where the North Node is in this area. So the direction of our collective soul's evolution is pulling you to really come to terms with the spiritual nature of your mission, right? Which is very much Pisces in the 10th house. And also to come into natural communion with what is around you as a resolution to who you are and your journey, right? The 12th house again is imagination and dreams and forgiveness and unconditional love, and it also comes with kind of like a bondage to or an isolation from a bondage or an isolation. You can't get out of it, right? You have to come into this space and you experience the oneness, but that comes with everything that has accumulated. And this is why there's a lot of karma involved in the 12th house. You can't get away from it. And what is not resolved here comes back into the next cycle. And so there is a real strong connection here, not only to the fact that this realm has been you were not only glitching, but I mean, you see the code in the full field of consciousness. And that I feel like is going to be, you can invest that energy into, identifying that symbol for yourself, whose footsteps do you want to walk in as an avatar, what kind of avatar are you wanting to represent in your career or in your mission or in the zenith of your destiny, right? This is the 10th house. So Gemini, it's there's something here with the instability in the 12th house. I mean, this is very the thing is having Uranus here is really shaking up the need for like social revolution and reform, like real quantum leaps at a spiritual level, right? And the fact that it hasn't been steady has allowed for all of us, I think, to realize that things are not what we thought they were, down to the actual material reality, right, which is Taurus. But that being able to manage this with Uranus, which Mercury and Uranus have a connection, right? Uranus is like the next octave of Mercury, and so you're connecting to a much higher pitch, but very much the same tone, right? Which is very much about the mind. So Gemini, I mean, this is, again, you can work very easily with Uranus, but it's at a much higher frequency. So, but this does open some doors and bring the material, which is for you very spiritual and has to do with the collective unconscious, into the spiritual for you, which is really just your mission, right? Your material mission, your destiny, and what you're contributing to at a societal level. Thinking, being able to access this astral realm or multidimensional realms by having Uranus here is allowing you to really see all of the options and have a perspective that maybe not a lot of other people have right now in terms of, what it can be and what our potential is, if only we realize that material reality is not the only, is shaped by our own consciousness, basically. So Gemini, I mean, being a Gemini, this is kind of your wheelhouse in some ways, but you have to be aligned with a particular, we've all had to choose. And so you have to be aligned, make the choice of like, the avatar that you want to follow in their footsteps, or who do you want to be in the sense of your public career. So you have Jupiter here. This is wisdom and expansion and representation as well, and some sort of leadership and management of this space as well. And of course, Neptune is part of this conversation, as we're going to see as we unfold. Now, it's not till we get to the first quarter where we get our first real challenge. I think personally, right out the gate, we're being challenged because Venus and Mars are meeting Pluto on the 3rd. And then we're going to come into a moon in Aries that's going to meet Chiron on March 4th and have connection to Lilith, have a connection to Uranus. So that's something that we will talk more in depth about on the Friday transmission, or the Friday astrology report that I stream. But I think it's going to be when this first quarter moon comes into your sign, Gemini, that you, of all people, are going to feel the tension with that. So let's look at that. You and Sag, right? Because the moon will be in the area of your chart that has so much to do with you as a person, that identity is going to get really wrapped up into this conversation. So let's see here. I think it's on the 10th, yes. And Saturn is part of this as well. So let's pay attention to that, because, again, Saturn in your 9th house is kind of holding it down, but is also very limiting in belief systems. Like, it's very authoritarian, and it's very, it's stable, but it requires like actual concrete boundaries between this and that, in terms of belief systems, in an area that's really just like a never-ending expansion of understanding. And Saturn's like, nope, you still have to bring it down to actually some sort of distinctive form, and it has to follow the pattern. That's really what Saturn in the 9th kind of keeps you from doing, is getting out of your lane, and in particular, leaving behind the pattern that is very much there with Saturn. So in terms of belief systems and the meaning. So here is the moon in your sign, Gemini. You can see Lilith also is very close and will be in a conjunction with the moon in Gemini right after this new first quarter moon. Excuse me. This is on the 10th of March. So this is going to be a mutable square, and at the same time, the very same time this is happening, the moon will be in a trine to Saturn. So this is a square, so it's a friction, it's a challenge, it's a confrontation, right? And definitely a confrontation with, the feelings and you on the inside, how you feel on the inside as a Gemini, especially if you have a moon in Gemini, but also just being very sensitive to yourself, being sensitive to what's going on within you, feeling into your identity a lot more. And it's the challenge, right? And a confrontation with the sun, which is your expression outwards. That's way more in your public, professional, mission-oriented area of the chart. There is some responsibility and authority here that is going to be pulling a lot of your energy. But since the moon is in Gemini and Lilith is right here, boy, we're all going to be kind of like withdrawn and pulled in, because the challenge here is to you set an intention with this new moon. And the first real challenge, it has a lot to do with trusting and surrendering to divine timing about it, because the moon here in this position in Gemini is going to open up a realization within each of us about the multiplicity and the multifarious options in front of us in terms of concepts and ideas and knowledge, and wanting to find feel into that. And this is going to be a crisis moment in some way, shape, or form for all of us, where there'll be, for Gemini, a crisis in terms of how you feel about yourself, what's going on in your own identity, your ability to never settle on anything. And that's why there is limitless options in front of you that you can, put, into your, it's like going to a buffet or a cafeteria, and you're like, wow, there's food from all over the world here. And so you're like, I want some of this and this and this and then this, right? And Gemini, this is how you function in the world for the most part, is you understand the dialectic, never settling on it, but also realizing it's one and the same. That is like high level mercurial energy. The challenge is that your identity in a public sphere, or your career, or your mission is asking and looking for its sustainment by identifying with, when the table is set, the table is set. And when it's time, we'll all sit down together and eat. And so, Gemini, I feel like that there will be a typical withdrawal into the Gemini two-facedness in a way, and not even that, multifaceted, right? Emotionally, of just like, oh, I could be anything. I am all the options of what I could be or who I am, especially identity, is going to feel really urgent with Lilith right here. Now, and this will be the challenge about how you feel and how you express yourself, right? Because you made a commitment already, in theory. This is the idea. So the trine to Saturn is going to be where the authority of Saturn in this area is going to stabilize this feeling. So there may be a conflict and a challenge here, and it's going to be from, strangely enough, like this paternal figure of Saturn, that it's unyielding and limiting, but also incredibly secure, and a backbone that's going to give the emotional aspect of you, Gemini, right, in this area of how you feel about yourself, how you feel on the inside, the urgency to not really commit to anything. Commit to any one feeling about yourself or identity. And it's going to be this trine to Saturn in this moment that will be kind of like, how do I say this? I keep getting this like pat on the back or something, or something that's from Saturn that is going to be very, very real and very strong and stable kind of a message that will come to give everybody a sense of, authority about like, hey, there is something there is something here for sustained hard work. There really is. So, but it'll come in the form of like an understanding through the process of education or higher mind, that you will have this sense of stability here that will anchor what otherwise could really compromise. And this is why it's a crisis in action. People are going to act out of urgency and a sense of kind of like backpedaling with this moon, and it'll be very much around your own identity and who you are in yourself and who you are in a public level at your or your professional life, and how you're expressing and identifying with that role in your life. So this is the first quarter square. So this is going to be a big challenge for all of us, but for you in particular. Now, Venus and Mars have already moved into Aquarius. So they are now starting to, and they're still traveling together in the same degree for the most part. That will change soon. Venus will move beyond Mars, but there is an incredible amount of spiritual energy that they will be able to gather in and utilize for healing. Again, remember, damage control, right? You have the capacity, especially Gemini, to manage that mentally and to find the patterns that still are relevant, but also to clear away what is not relevant anymore, and to there's going to be a lot of healing around this, but there's also going to be a lot of just like, wait a minute. I don't know if I want to do this. This is, I think, Gemini, you have to step out. And Mercury, your ruler, is coming into the 10th house. Perfect, right? It's going to give some empirical reasoning and logic and just a sense of personal identification for you, Gemini, in this area. And you won't be restricted by anything other than your own imagination about who you can be and how you can be manifest in your mission, right? What's your zenith of destiny? So this is really great, but just also keep, it's going to be very tempting to do the Gemini thing and to just like totally come back into yourself and like maybe not stick with a commitment that you've made in these realms, especially like in terms of what you're here to do, because it can be scary. I mean, we're all going to go through this in some level, but Gemini, wow. Like I said, you and Scorpio so far have a lot going on in this next couple of weeks. So let's look at the full moon real quick, since my timer did go off and we're nearing the end of our time, Gemini. But we're going to have a full moon in a sign that your ruler also rules, which is Virgo. And let's, here we go. So the full moon is going to be in your 4th house of home, family, emotional security, where you're loyal, where you're faithful, and the customs, traditions, your private life, your inner life, your personal power, right? The root system as an individual emotionally. So while this is really going to break down to Gemini a pretty clear and very full emotional recognition of whether or not you can manage your own personal power, if you can gather it and seize it in at the right time so you don't totally lose yourself emotionally as you in a public way are becoming like a prism for the collective energy, okay? This is all about power, right? Can you gather the power within yourself and in your emotional and intuitive landscape of the full moon and really seize it, like using the willpower to like pull it all together at the moment that it's needed in the face of a release of power, which is going to be more like the beam coming through you as a prism and it spreading out into that beautiful rainbow, right? It's going to be very powerful. So, and we are talking about power for you. So be ready, Gemini, for this full moon. And then Neptune, actually in the same house, is going to release some energy here along the nodal axis that I think is very important to you. So if we collectively, and for you in particular, about your mission or your career, Gemini, if you are, and what you came here to do and to participate in, If you are being realistic and you have accepted your dharma at a completely spiritual level, because we are talking about Neptune, if you can accept your dharma and accept your limitations, then you can actually centralize your particular energy towards the focus of what you are here to do. And if you come to that, we're all going to come to that awareness at a very profoundly spiritual level. And for you, again, it's in your mission, Gemini. This is a big part of this. If you do nothing, it will still initiate or elicit this X-ray view of who you've been in terms of your daily life, your disciplines, your works, your service, your habits, your routines, all that 6th house. Who you've been at what kind of habits you've instilled for your health and well-being, what kind of challenges you've overcome in the past, or who, the things coming out that you would prefer to remain hidden, or the hidden enemies coming out of the woodwork. You will still see it. It will still be available to you. But if you actually take this moment of full merging with your dharma at a mission level, Gemini, you can invest that into the North Node in this sextile, and I think it's just going to open up these spiritual channels in a way that is going to not only quantum leap you, but quantum leap all of us, right? If you're able to come into communion with the will to be here as a result of your connection to the physical world, the objective world. And I'm not saying that you should be fully materialistic. That's not it at all. You have to be attuned to the natural rhythm. This is still a Pleiadian marking with the the North Node. So if you can invest this realization of your dharma at a spiritual level, it's going to open up a resonance with this plane, right? This multidimensional, non-physical, unseen Akashic plane that is going to not only lead to your own evolution, but is going to be very much part of how you can fulfill your mission, Gemini. I feel like that you really are going to, wow. I mean, you really are meant to be out front in a spiritual way, in some way, right? Your mission is a very spiritual mission, and it's the most spiritual mission. And it's good to have your soul's evolution in that 12th house. And so it's really, again, be realistic, right? Give yourself over to the mission so that you can see your limitations and where you are meant to focus your energy. This is going to be really important. And you're not going to be able to do that really without letting go entirely into what Neptune does, dissolves you into everything around it, total surrender. But your ruler is in this area and is going to actually be very close to the new moon, the same degree. So that'll be really important to check in with mentally. So Gemini, I'm going to let that go for now. That's plenty to work with. So if you're interested in a reading, you're interested in energy work to support your process, if you're interested in getting these bi-monthly forecasts and being part of the Starseed Fellowship, where we meet twice a month as well on Zoom, you can follow the link to Subscribestar in the description box below, and you can subscribe for $3 a month at this time. And everything else you need is in the description box below. Gemini, you have a mission. It's time to really align with the mission and to let your lessons be learned in terms of where your power has been generated in the past and where it's being generated now, and take those lessons really into your body, into your selfhood, and allow them to grow something beautiful, some beautiful new patterns in which to develop meaning so that you can fulfill your mission. All right, Gemini, I will see you on the next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.